Good evening again, and we've returned to open session. Let's move to item 3 on the agenda, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Item 4, public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. And without objection, I'd like to move up item 9, which is a discussion approval of the Milton Landing RFP, because we have our counsel, Kevin Freitag, here. And once we finish that, we can release him. So without objection, we'll go to item 9, which is discussion approval of the Milton Landing RFP. And I think Mr. Wells may want to lead us through this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. This has been quite a bit of work, as my colleague Katie Connell knows, as the two of us and the town administrator, Mike Dennehy, sit on the Milton Landing working subcommittee. As you know, there's been no lease on this property. The lease expired, I believe, in 2015, and we've been working on developing a new RFP to put out for public process. And tonight, we're ready to make a motion to improve and invite invitations, request for proposals for the lease of 25 Wharf Street as written and subject to the edits that were made during our executive session tonight. This has been an awful lot of work, and it's a step forward in bringing some permanency and some resolve to what I consider a jewel in our community. I think many others do as well, and so that's where we are. I don't know, Katie, if anything, Michael, but we're ready to take a
No,
vote
I
and go.
echo your thoughts, and I know there was a lot of work done with the Master Plan Implementation Committee as well, and this takes into account
This is
all
where
the
it
work.
started. There's a lot of work that came from all the work that was done by the MPIC, the recommendation of the MAPC. I mean, one of the things, there's history, there's tradition, there's just the beauty of the Neponset River and the fact that the uses that take place there today and that continue to grow, is particularly in the area of passive recreation, crew, kayaking, boating, things of that nature. So this is a step forward, and I think it will be a positive thing for the town. So we have a motion before us, subject to any, unless anyone has questions, and I'll make a motion, and maybe we can second, and if we have any further discussion, talk about it. But I'd make a motion to approve the invitations for the request for proposals for the lease of 25 Wharf Street as amended, as written and as amended, subject to the amendments of tonight, of our executive session tonight.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
So just moving forward on this, we will set up a pre-bidder, our bidders conference, let Michael kind of, probably within the next 10 days?
Yeah, I think we advertised the RFP sometime next week, aggressively.
Right.
That would be an aggressive date to work through the edits and get the RFP presented. I believe it has to be advertised for 2 weeks, at which point we'll have a pre-bid conference, if you will, to answer any questions for potential bidders sometime in that 2-week period. So with the idea to get this off the ground as soon as possible.
And just the final note, the bid and all the work of the subcommittee really took into account all the work that the MPIC did over the past 2 years in getting this to where we are tonight. So thank you to everyone and all the members of the subcommittee who worked on this.
It has been a great amount of work, both from the Master Plan Implementation Committee, and they handed it off to us, I think, in January, February, and the Milton Landing Committee that Mr. Wells and Ms. Conlon are on have taken it from there to here. So thank you all for all your efforts on this, and we move forward with it. So, any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you,
All right.
Kevin, too.
Thank you, Kevin. Because we have a couple of additional people here that I'd like to move up, I'd like to move to item 7, which is the Veteran Services update with our Veteran Services Director, Mr. Cook.
Good evening, Select Board.
Good evening, Kevin.
You're
How are you,
here late
Kevin?
tonight.
Oh, boy. I can see I packed a crowd. I knew it was coming.
There must be a parade on the agenda.
Yeah. Well, it's Veterans Day.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the parade, the procession's always
Procession,
great.
yeah.
I gotta say, hearing the sound of the band come down that hill, it's always just a great thing to be able to stand on the town hall lawn and watch them proceed, and the kids do such a great job. So, Yes, we're excited. It's Veterans Day. Monday, right now, the weather we're holding, it looks pretty good. Partly cloudy, upper 40s, what we expect for November, but we should not have to be in here as a backup. You know, we had this as a space as a backup, of course. But I think we're going to do good. We've got a featured speaker, Mr. Kyle Toto. He's works for the VA. He's an outreach. He's an OEF veteran, and that's what we'll be focusing on this year for Veterans Day, honoring our Iraqi Freedom, Gulf War, and Operation Enduring Freedom Afghanistan veterans. So we've got all the plans in place. Everybody's been helpful. You know, I got some great colleagues in the different departments, facilities, and the DPW, and of course Mike and all the other people. So it's a group effort. Everyone's pulling together. So we're going to have another great day for the veterans out there on Town Hall Lawn.
Questions, comments from the members?
I think we have a kickoff event tomorrow here in this building?
Yes, Mary Ann Sullivan's annual Veterans Luncheon, which is obviously one of the best days on the calendar. This room will be full. It's just amazing how many people come out. And I mean, I see elder veterans who only come out for that. That's like one of the only events they'll actually come out for, but they make sure they come every year. There's a lot going on. I know Mike had said, you know, you guys occasionally like to get an update from department heads. So it's more than just ceremonies, you know, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. That's, of course, the biggest things going on. But on a day-to-day basis, you know, I'm seeing an uptick in the number of calls and questions and queries we get from families in Milton. And what we find out a lot of times is the parents are still here, but the kids have gone somewhere else. So I'm getting, you know, I looked at my phone the other day, and it's like Lakeland, Florida. I'm like, okay, scam call, you know? And no, it's you know, it's kids of Milton residents, and they're saying, hey, Mom and Dad are, you know, at the house in Milton, and we're worried, what can we do? And Dad's a veteran, is there anything the VA can do? So guiding them through that process, as you might know, any of you have an elder parent, it's never easy. We're trying to help them and assist them. We have a number of veterans who come in on a regular basis looking for assistance with VA claims, you know, direction, and, you know, what can I do, what can't I do? One gentleman who come in, he's still on basically active duty. He's been to Afghanistan 3 times, and he's, you know, asking questions about what do I do at the end of my career, and how do I, you know, because he's definitely got issues that the VA needs to address. And then, you know, the things that I'm trying to do to improve what's going on through our office. One of the things I got the other day, about 2-3 weeks ago, was a call from social workers over at Milton Hospital. And they wanted to know more about, like, what do we do for veterans and how do we work and stuff. So I started talking, we had a little discussion going on. And I realized that in our communities, there's multiple players who all interface on elders and veterans. Milton Hospital, here, South Shore Elder Services, a couple other groups. So I sent out a group invite to have everyone come here after Veterans Day, to have a little get-together and kind of sit around a table just so everybody knows who everybody is. Because a lot of times when something happens, there's an issue, say at, you know, across the street or, you know, at Milton Hospital or something, nobody really knows, okay, who should be the point person on this? Is it a hospital issue? Is it a veteran issue? Is it both? Is it a South Shore Elder Services? So what I'm trying to do is improve communication between multiple constituencies who all share a piece of the same puzzle, because that way we can do better for those people when they're in those crisis situations. And I'm excited about it because I really want to, you know, work that relationship. There's too many people who are slipping through the cracks that really we need to be aware of in our community. And it's, you know, it's tough because they've lived here a long time, they're proud, they really don't want to bother anybody, but everybody needs help at some point. So, you know, so that's some of the initiatives that we've got going on. The Chapter 115 stuff with the state aid seems to be pretty steady. We have about 12, 13 cases right now ongoing, and it seems to be, you know, pretty regular. I occasionally get a call or two, and we talk to them, you know, so maybe one comes on and one falls off, but it's pretty standard. Budget issues aren't a problem for my department, you know. Like anything else, I'd like to have a larger budget, but, you know, we'll make do with what we got, and we understand the importance that Milton's going through a change. I'd say right now, there's a lot of going on. I know there's issues with, they're looking for, you guys are talking about a new fire station, and, there's always someone want to say, what about a school, or, I mean, there's 100 different things going on, so, we're just glad to be able to continue to do our part and represent the veterans in any way possible. Been doing this for 3.5 years. It is the best job I've ever held. I'm thoroughly honored, and it's a privilege to work for you guys, and of course the town of Randolph also. The flexibility of my position is really, I think, the key, because Mike knows there's days where I'm just bombed down in Randolph for whatever reason, and I just shoot him a quick message, hey, gonna work out of Randolph today, can't get up there, and I let the center know. But then there's other days where I'm gonna say, okay, I need to be more up on this end, so having that flexibility and be able to shift where I need to be, it's just another way that this works out really well. So, and I appreciate your continued support. I see you gave Mike a vote of confidence too, and, he's been awesome. He's been awesome. So you've invested in the right gentleman, the right person to be in that position.
Great. Well, that's good to hear. Any other comments, questions from the members? So tomorrow, November 7th at, it's 11:30?
11:30.
11:30
yep.
here for the
Veterans
Veterans
Luncheon,
Luncheon.
yep.
And then Monday, November 11th at
What?
10:30 for the procession? And
Yeah,
11?
10:30 meet up at the high school, of course, and that's kind of, I'm not up there, but I know they pretty much know how to get everybody organized, and then it's the march down, and then we form up out here and kick off right at 11 o'clock.
It's gonna be cold, just like
Yeah.
it was last year, too.
Yeah.
It was last year.
I tell people it was pretty cold out on those battlefields for those soldiers and Marines and sailors and Coast Guard and airmen, so I think we can endure a little bit of that for, to make sure they get recommended. This is 100 years from 1919, and while 1918 was the end of World War I, the first real armistice day was 1919. Woodrow Wilson declared it. In fact, I actually was in Washington DC about 2 weeks ago for a wedding, and the reception was in Woodrow Wilson's house, which is kind of neat. It's an historic house, and you can have parties and receptions there, so it was kind of neat to be there. See the residence right there in Georgetown that he had.
Can I just add one thing,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair? So
sure.
last year, right around this time of the year, we dedicated the intersection of Norman Street.
Yes.
To Sergeant John Thomas Carrata. So
Carrata, yeah.
Kevin was instrumental in making that happen. I wasn't there that day, I believe.
I
former Chair Wells was
landed, I
there.
landed from
Oh,
Norfolk,
yeah, you
Virginia.
came
I
in,
came from
came-
Norfolk, Virginia to get there.
Yeah, just got there in time. And we had an inquiry today about another family that's interested in something similar, so we're gonna investigate that, and then we're gonna, talk, you obviously got some information on that, and then we'll see what we can do about that. But, we want to preserve the history of Milton and recognize our heroes in our own community. It's the reason why we're able to be here, and a regular reminder of that is good. I'm gonna be up Friday, St. Mary of the Hills.
St. Mary's of the Hills, yep.
I'm going to be up talking to the elementary school kids up there, just about the importance of Veterans Day and things like that. And just so you know, I'm not normally this unkempt, but I am participating in No Shave November. I encourage my male counterparts to jump in on this. If you pledge $100
You did it last
to the
year.
Red Sox Foundation, you can go without shaving for a whole month. Now, you'd have to clear it with the wife, I guess. But, it was about a week ago, my wife looked at me and she goes, "You're gonna do this again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this again." She's like, "All right." So, for 1 month of the year, she puts up with it. But that's another way we're just, trying to support the veterans in our community, and the Home Base Foundation is an awesome, awesome organization. They do a lot for our veterans.
They have a great partnership with the Red Sox as well.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I went to the presentation at Fenway Park last year. It was
Yep,
really
I'll
good.
be there
It was
this year.
really good.
It's always great. Any day I can go to Fenway Park is great.
All right.
Thank you, Kevin. Keep up the good work.
Oh, no, thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you,
Thank you for your
Kevin.
continued
Appreciate it.
confidence. And if anyone has questions, please come see me at the Veterans Office or give me a call. My number's all over the place, and I'm looking forward to it.
And we will see you tomorrow and then Monday.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here,
All right,
definitely.
great.
Yeah, I get to be the featured speaker tomorrow.
All right, great.
So I'm gonna try to keep it a little light. In the past couple of years, when Michael testified, I get a little emotional because it's hard not to. So I was thinking about this year, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit of the levity of being in the military. I've got a couple instances where it's one of those things, if you weren't laughing, you would be crying. So, I've got a couple things I wanna share with the veterans, and I think it's good that we have a little bit of levity on a day like that, because we are going to celebrate, all veterans. And, while there's courageous men and women who have given their lives, sometimes I say to myself, we have to kind of just remember there's a lot of people who did their part too separately, just regular mundane. They did the service. They weren't heroes. They weren't out there, chasing down bad guys like El Baghdadi or whatever his name was. But, we want to celebrate all veterans.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you again.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Kevin.
And thank you to the townspeople of Milton.
All right.
Go
Okay.
Navy.
All right, so that's item 7. And then, thanks, Kevin. And then without objection, Mr. Roach is here, so without objection, we'll go right to item 8, which is the discussion approval of the East Milton Deck Project with Mr. Roach.
Hi, Al.
Good evening.
How you been?
How are you?
How are you, Sean?
Where did the fall go, huh?
What's that?
Where did the fall go?
I know.
Where'd the summer go?
I know, it's crazy. Can't believe it.
So I think
Yeah.
the purpose is just, we set it out 3 months in September, and so I think the idea is to get an update on where we are and where we're going.
It didn't really progress any farther than the last time we met.
Okay.
We're gonna do that indemnification letter, but that never happened, right? So,
We have it. We have a draft of it.
We have a draft of it,
we
yeah.
have a draft.
Oh,
The
okay.
town council's working with MassDOT on.
so I kinda held
That's right.
off
Yep.
and didn't really proceed any.
Yeah, we had a little delay from the
Yeah.
Department of Transportation of
So we
Massachusetts.
kinda lost momentum.
Yep.
And I didn't really do much about it since then, other than try and keep up with what was going on down there, and just whenever Mike wanted something out, I tried to get it out and
Yep.
move stuff around. I guess there's not much to report on, because it didn't really totally kick in. A little disappointed in how things were treated a little bit.
Okay.
But I was very happy to see people down there using the park for a change, so. As far as where it's headed, I met with Sarah Callahan a couple weeks ago, and I filled out the volunteer form to join the task force. So I'm thinking maybe that might be a better use of my time too, to get involved with that and like help the whole process along, and maybe that park is part of it. Maybe it's not, maybe there's a bigger picture thing I can get involved in.
Okay.
I don't think the cars was a good idea. They got trashed, that was probably.
Well-intentioned, though. It was
Yeah,
well-intentioned.
yeah, it was well-intentioned, but
It's enticing, though, at 10 o'clock at night, that stuff.
it needs to be something bigger where someone can actually maybe work there and be supervised if it's gonna be like that, or something more maintenance-free.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in between, like it needs to be all the way, or something more simple, maybe. Maybe it's like the concrete ping pong, like just something, chess table, I don't know. I feel like something should be there, because people used it and liked it,
Yep.
but I just don't know what at this point,
Questions,
and
comments?
how to proceed.
It's unfortunate
Mr. Frank.
that truck got vandalized. What happened exactly, Sean?
It's just kids being
Yeah, yeah,
kids, like
okay.
picking at it, and just kids being kids.
Like
And
crashed
I was a little
inside.
naive, probably thinking.
The cab was open, right?
The cab was
Yeah.
open, just picking at it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like pulling things apart inside. I was kinda didn't expect that.
Right.
The convertible of the Mustang was ripped down and broken.
Well, I like the truck. It's a nice truck. So
I know.
I feel for you.
You wanna buy it?
so-
It's for sale now.
Is it for sale now?
Deep discount?
Was it 53 or was it 55? What year is it?
49.
Oh, it's that old, wow.
Yeah. But I feel like something should be there, because a lot of people did, just when I started going on Facebook, did take the stuff out a few times. They're like, where'd all the stuff go? People were wondering what was going on with it. I know there was comments about the horrible vintage chairs. We can't win all the time, but.
That's right.
So I don't know, what do you guys want me to do next? Maybe just stick with the teen task force, maybe get more of a master plan for it. Right now, at the ping pong tables, a lot of stuff's already gone. There's picnic tables, that's not bothering anyone, right?
Oh, and I saw there was a family playing chess there today.
Yeah,
morning.
it works,
This
like,
morning it was. I mean,
I think approved something should be there, but I just don't know.
You've definitely brought more people in there, other than just to walk through it.
Yeah.
Whether they sat and ate lunch, whether they played with the games, whether they just sat and read a book, which I saw people do, which maybe I didn't really pay much attention to it before, but being
Yeah,
there
people
every
were
day
sitting
now.
down there having a
It-
coffee.
It definitely got people's attention.
Jackrabbit, people liked it, they were down there for lunch a lot. So I think it could help the town, even the businesses around there, grab a coffee and eat down there, but maybe it's more of a joint thing we do together down the road, I don't know.
So,
I don't know what you guys
Can
got
I
any
just-
feedback
Mr.
behind the
Mr. Denny.
scenes?
No, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I would add, Sean was very easy to work with. Anytime we asked him to change things up or move things around, no one tried harder down there than Sean. Tried out the first set of chess pieces, everything was out of his pocket, all to repair the vehicles, move the vehicles, bring new stuff in. So I just want to thank Sean. He was very easy to work with. He was very responsive, answers emails quicker than anyone I know, quite witty as well. But no, he was very patient down there. There was some property damage that I don't think any of us expected, which, I feel from, he felt the burden of that. But very easy to work with, no one tried harder, so.
Ms. Collins.
I think if someone worked there, though, that wouldn't happen, you know what I mean? If there was like food truck or something else there that someone felt like they were in charge, like.
Some ownership.
Some
to
ownership,
it.
like, it just felt like a free-for-all maybe, and that's kind of what I did. Like,
Right.
I mean, it's my own fault, so that's why I'm not complaining, but it was good to get a spark down there, I think.
right,
Ms. Collins.
I was going to say, thank you, that it was an experiment, and you got people talking and you activated the space.
Yeah.
And I think once the work is done, we also will have had time to be thinking about
Yeah.
about it, and I was down there on a Friday at 10 o'clock, and there was a big group of girls eating, it was a day off from school.
Yeah.
They were eating at one of the picnic tables, and there were two people with a small child playing chess. So, people did use it.
Yeah.
And you can't make an omelet, right, without breaking a few eggs?
That's it, yeah.
So I am sorry about the damage, but I appreciate your looking at something and seeing what could be and trying it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And you
You're
did
welcome.
something. I mean, you got people interested in the area, you got people to go there, you
Yeah.
get, so you accomplished something, and the town's indebted to you for that, because you spent your own money, and you got people involved, and you got people energized to a degree,
Yep.
and you got people talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. Going forward, we're heading to winter, so I
Yeah.
guess the question is when things come out for the winter. And then as Melinda suggested, we have some time now, and I don't know if it should take the form of a survey, maybe through the youth task force, or
Yeah, maybe
a survey to see what people, I'm just suggesting, and I don't know if this makes sense, but a survey to see what people liked and what they didn't like, so that going forward, we can figure out what improvements could be made. Next spring, the construction's supposed to start.
Correct.
So that may give us more time to figure out what makes sense going forward. But I think it was a great experiment, a great start, and it gives us something to work with going forward.
I don't know if it's possible, the idea of using the money for the park part of that for something after the survey, instead of just them throwing in grass, like, what, I don't know what the details of the bid is yet.
It's a lot of green space.
But maybe there is a chance to amend that, like at the, now that we have time to think about it, and actually make them build something useful that we want. With that money, I don't know if that's possible in a public bid process, do you know what I mean? Like,
So
some
what
of the
this-
ideas that people come up with
Yeah.
could be used, to pay, instead of just throwing grass down, maybe I know people want skating and some other items, maybe there could be a change order of that project, not spend more money, but use it the way the town wants.
I think they're aware of, the skating part, they're definitely aware of. Is it Rich Houghton? Who's from
Which will
Gravel?
come at the end of the
Halverson.
project.
Haverson,
anyway.
they're definitely aware of that. They definitely know that, there's some beliefs that it can be better used than just planting grass. I mean,
Yeah.
Or all.
Maybe we can catch that in time, instead of like spending money
I think,
twice.
I
on
think we can
something.
probably do it, but I think we'll have to have, maybe you can
Be
think
a
about
process.
what kind of vision.
Yeah. Yeah, sometime December, I think they're coming back in December and January, maybe. At
The
some reason-
advertise,
Yeah.
the bid proposal? I
Yeah.
believe it's
I
January.
think it's in January,
Yeah.
so that's something that should be done, over the next couple of months if we want to do something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right, because the plan is,
I mean, Adams Street is gonna look and feel like a street. To 2 weeks ago's discussion about the air rights agreement, that if a future board decides that Adams Street should be reopened, it's gonna look like a street, feel like a street. So it's probably gonna look the same way it does today.
The street part, yeah.
And then it's more of, those raised beds are gonna come down. And based on the landscape architect's plans, more of just kind of like a grassy knoll that can be programmable.
Okay.
But it will also it'll be amenable and easily accessible for food trucks.
Yeah.
They're going in on like a daily basis, it'll be gated instead of this up and over, because it was designed really to protect
Yes.
you from being in there, the way it is now with the humps and the barriers versus, it doesn't have a gate. So we'll have that, it may have, something that's amenable so that the MAC can have outside, or anyone could have like outside music sometimes. So there's definitely possibilities there that.
We should look into how they run the Greenway downtown.
That's the
'Cause,
same designer.
The town could probably like make money off this situation, because like with licensing, and they bid out the trucks downtown, and it's like $500 fee, like, could pay for some of the park itself, down the road if we plan it right. Not telling you guys what to do, but
It's on the radar. It's definitely on the radar, like,
always copy what they do down there on the necklace and just bring it to Milton in a way.
and they've had great successes with that. They really have.
Yeah, yes.
And they're very fair, the way they have a lottery system for moving the trucks, so
They
the
do
same
as a
person, they get
lottery,
the
yeah.
same place all the time. It's very fair, so, there's a lot of, you definitely, I'll leave you with this, and this, Mr. Sheila, my lord, it's easy in life to be selfish. It's hard to be selfless. There was no gain in this for you, but to do something for your community, and that was a selfless act, and you should be commended as the chair and everyone else noted tonight. And you got people's attention, you got our attention, and hopefully going forward, we make this more than what it's been for the past 25 years. And I think that you cracked that door.
Great.
You definitely did.
Great. It was not all for naught.
Absolutely not.
And I got to meet all you people.
Absolutely. And we may see you in your application for the Youth Task Force.
All right,
Next
put in a good word for me.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right,
Sean.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sean.
And if you need anything else moved,
Yeah.
just
I'll reach out to you. Thanks. Where are the chickens?
Can-
Where are the chickens?
Just a point, can we help him
Mr.
with anything? Like,
Lowe?
if we- can we get like the DPW and maybe
Yeah.
help him with moving any of that stuff? Okay. All right, thanks.
All right, we now, I'm told that we have some people here for item 18, so without objection, we'll go to item 18, which is the request for a letter of support regarding House Bill 2810, the carbon tax. Do we have the people from Sustainable Milton and Clean Water Action here that want to come up and discuss this with us? And Ms. Collins, I think, has been shepherding this as well.
Pull up some more chairs there.
Okay.
This is a visual aid. So, good evening, everyone. I know some of you, but not all of you. My name is Tucker Smith, and I am speaking before you tonight as a Milton homeowner of 40 years, hard to believe, as an active board member, too, of Sustainable Milton, which has advocated for sustainable policies and practices in this community for over 13 years. This is just a visual aid of some of the things that the organization has done, and I'm not going to address that because I'm really here to address our climate-changing future and not the past. But it is worth noting that Sustainable Milton's Elbow Grease certified Milton as an early green community through the Department of Environmental Protection in 2010. And most recently, on October 10th, we collaborated with Clean Water Action, from whom Laura Spark is represented tonight, and Climate Exchange to conduct a community climate action forum. This followed on the heels of the global climate strike at the end of September. And there were actions in Boston and also here in Milton a week later. Our climate forum, 40 people attended at the Milton Public Library. Linda Collins was there, and Jennifer McCulloch, and Hillary Waite as well. Sustainable Milton has accomplished many things. Milton, the town of Milton, sitting on the historic Neponset River and its estuary, and I notice Ian Cook is back there somewhere as the director of the Neponset River Watershed Association. Milton is vulnerable to climate change's impacts, especially floods and severe storms. We're doing numerous things right, and I'm grateful. In this reality, though, it's not enough. We have hired smart and passionate environmental professionals like Hillary Waite, who's crafting our vulnerability plan right now. The grant for which Sustainable Milton and other town organizations, such as the Milton Interfaith Clergy Association, drafted letters of support. It's not enough to plant shade trees, although I am grateful to our DPW and the Milton Shade Tree Advisory Committee. It's not enough to ban single-use plastic bags, which you were instrumental in leading to action, or to build tree filter boxes, or to tax stormwater runoff, or to install a charging station behind Town Hall. No, unfortunately, this town, the Commonwealth, the country, the continent, and I would say the planet, has got to begin to remove carbon-producing fossil fuels from an unsustainable energy equation now. So one way, which is the reason we're here tonight, which has already been endorsed by numerous municipalities, nonprofits, businesses, and by Milton's own elected House representatives, Dan Cullinane and William Driscoll, is to pass House Bill 2810, sometimes referred to as the Benson Bill, an act to promote green infrastructure and reduce carbon emissions. And it's important to pass it within this legislative session. No more stalling. I'm going to leave it to Laura to present the details of this, but I am requesting you in your elected legislative roles as Milton's chief policymakers, your fiduciary stewards, and as your water and sewer commissioners, because there's going to be there's a direct link with climate change, to endorse this municipal letter of support for 2810 that's going to be given to you, or has been provided to you without delay. The clock is ticking. Other states have watched what the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has done in courageous legislation in the past, not related to climate change, but to other significant matters. And I recently read a quotation spoken by Dr. John Goodenough. He is the 2019 Nobel laureate in chemistry, and he says, "The meaning of life is in what you serve," and I would add, in who you serve. So I thank you for your consideration, and I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and I thank my colleagues, Louis Piero and Daryl Warner, for holding our
Thank you, Ms.
visual aid.
Smith.
Thank you.
Ms. Sparks?
Were we able to put the PowerPoint on? Okay. So I'm going to do a PowerPoint, but we'll just going to add it on a handout.
Sometimes that's better. You
Yeah,
don't have to
it's
look at both.
This needs a color.
I know. Sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. The reason we're doing I don't love PowerPoints, but carbon pricing is kind of a wonky concept, and so it's sort of helpful to have a visual to look at. Yes, my name's Laura Spark. I work with Clean Water Action, and as Tucker said, I've been working with Sustainable Milton and other groups across the Commonwealth to try to introduce the concept of carbon pricing broadly and this specific bill. Clean Water Action is a national nonprofit with a Massachusetts office that works on a range of environmental issues. Clean water, obviously, we helped pass the Clean Water Act way back when, before I got there. Climate change, environmental justice, and environmental health. We are, second slide, we are coordinating a coalition of about 60 environmental, faith, youth, and other civic organizations who have been focused on passing a Massachusetts carbon price. And the reason we're here, as Tucker said, is because we think that the specific bill that we are advocating for is a strong bill that can have a significant impact on climate change, and that it also has specific benefits for municipalities. So we want to introduce the bill to municipalities in the hope that it will interest you and that you will sign the municipal sign-on letter. We also have a faith letter and a business letter, and obviously we're doing all these letters because we're trying to show the legislature that there's strong support in the community for the policy. So the third slide, our starting point is a point of urgency. I think the urgency that Tucker already expressed, particularly I think this year with the International Panel on Climate Change issuing its report, and with us seeing the impacts of storms in Puerto Rico and Bahamas and the fires in California, and just every time we pick up the paper, it seems like there's another sort of dire report on melting or coral. We feel a strong sense of the need to act now, or as close to now as possible. Massachusetts has goals for for carbon reduction, but we are not on track. And of course, our goals were to get to 80% carbon emissions reduction by 2050, and now we know from you and others that that's 80% carbon or greenhouse gas emissions is not enough. We need to get 100% reduction by 2050. So carbon pricing works, so first question is, and I'm assuming many of you are familiar with it. I wasn't that familiar with it when I first came to the job. So the UN International Panel on Climate Change had said that there is an urgent need for a global carbon price. The International Monetary Fund says it's the most effective way to reduce climate emissions. They released a report this year and have been going around trying to influence people. The Nobel Prize last year was given to the economist who first introduced the idea of carbon pricing, so we're in good company in terms of arguing for a carbon price. Of course, they're all talking about a global carbon price, and we are talking about a statewide carbon price. The reason for that is, obviously, we're not going to get progress on carbon pricing under the Trump administration, but a number of states, including Massachusetts, want to continuing to try to meet the goals of the Paris Accord, even if Trump is moving to pull us out, with the hope that we will be successful in moving our states forward, and hopefully in a year or two, the things will change on the national level and people can join us in trying to move forward. So the basic idea of carbon pricing, I'm just going to talk about for a couple of slides and then talk just for a few minutes about the bill. So carbon pricing, the big idea is that burning oil, gas, and coal obviously emits greenhouse gases. Those gases cause air pollution, climate change, and increased illness and death. And all of that damage has a cost. The cost is now not currently reflected in the cost of fossil fuels, so they are artificially inexpensive. In addition, the people who tend to pay the cost, the people whose homes are inundated with water, who are suffering in storms and floods and fires, are often not the same people who are actually using the product, the oil, gas, and coal. So there's sort of a mismatch between who is paying for the cost of fossil fuels and who's actually using it. So the idea of carbon pricing is that the price of gas, coal, oil needs to change and actually reflect the damage that is done by these fuels. And that if we more accurately priced fossil fuels, they would gradually go up in price, and there would be an incentive for people to use cleaner energy. And so that is what carbon pricing is. Under the slide, how do carbon fees work, there are two different ways of doing a carbon fee. One is cap and trade, and one is actually a fee. So cap and trade is when you set a cap on all of the greenhouse emissions in a certain sector of the economy, and then slowly over time, you lower that cap. That is actually, we have that right now in Massachusetts. We participate in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is 8 states that work together. The Greenhouse Gas Initiative started in 2005. Massachusetts joined in 2007. And there's a cap on the amount of emissions from the electric sector, from the investor-owned utilities, and it's been slowly lowered over time. That has been very effective. There's actually a big mistake on this slide. So basically, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative has successfully lowered Massachusetts electricity emissions 40% since 2005. And all of the states it's been by 50%. So that's been very effective. During that same period of time, transportation emissions have gone up, and building emissions have gone up. So it's clear that this is a policy that works. It reduces emissions, and most of the emissions that have been reduced over the last, since 2005, have been in the electricity sector. Also, as you probably know, the way that we use that money from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is for mass save, so that we have been using the money that is raised, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, to invest in insulating homes, air sealing, things that energy efficiency primarily, as well as some renewable energy. So that's one way of doing it, and we've been successful doing that in Massachusetts for electricity. But we don't do anything like that for transportation, and we don't do anything like that for heating, which is what our bill is trying to cover. So the other way of pricing carbon is to focus on the price, is to set a price on fuels based on how much greenhouse gases they emit. And you can figure that out by the amount of carbon that's in a fuel. Typically what happens with a carbon fee is you set a fee based on the fee is per metric ton of carbon dioxide released. And so you set the fee relatively low, and you raise it over time. So the next slide shows how big a ton of carbon dioxide is. It takes to release a ton of carbon dioxide, it's about 8 to 10 fill-ups of a car, of gasoline, a gasoline tank. So that's sort of the big idea of what carbon pricing is. So just to shift gears to what we are thinking about in Massachusetts. Massachusetts sends $20 billion out of state each year to buy energy. We're not an extractive state, so none of the gas, and no, we obviously don't take gas and oil out of the ground here. So virtually all of our energy is bought from other states. The idea of our bill is that all 20 billion of that, instead of going out of state to Texas or Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or wherever it goes, we can use that money in the state and invest in clean energy. Representative Jennifer Benson and Senator Michael Barrett have both proposed carbon pricing bills that would do just that. So the bills that we are supporting and that we're hoping has your support is the House Bill H2810. We're focusing on the House because the Senate has passed carbon pricing in the past, and we're trying to pass carbon pricing in the House. What the bill does is it proposes a carbon fee of $20 per ton, raising to $40 per ton over 5 years. Just to put that in sort of direct what that would mean for you kind of terms, it would be 2 cents per gallon of gas. The cost of gas would go up 2 cents in year 1, and it would be up to 4 cents more per gallon in year 5.
May I ask you, Ms. Spark, just
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but so the fee would be a fee charged to gas, oil, and coal distributors?
Right, exactly.
And we're assuming that fee will be passed through, that 2 cents of profit will be passed through?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the fee is actually charged on distributors as the gasoline and oil coal, to the extent that it's still used, comes into the state, because they're sort of established distribution points. You can, there are already transactions that happen at those points with distributors and the state, so that it's kind of an easy way to charge the fee. But yes, we are assuming that if costs go up for distributors, that they will pass that along to consumers. And consumers don't want, don't generally want fees passed on to them. So with what, so the money from the carbon fee, there two things would happen with. First of all, a significant amount of money would be raised. 70% of the money raised would be returned in rebates to households, and I'll go through that in a minute. 30% would be invested. It would be invested in renewable energy, energy efficiency, clean transportation, and resilience. The point of investing money is to build out the clean energy infrastructure that needs to be in place for people to move off of dirty fuel. For example, right now, a lot of us would like to, we say put solar on our roof or do an air source heat pump, but we may not have the funds to do it. By investing 30% of the resources, there's money, public money that can be used to sort of build out that infrastructure. The investments are targeted to municipalities, businesses, and households, and 40% of the investments have to benefit low-income households and low-income communities to make sure that people at all income levels can access resources. The funds that would be available for investment would be $400 million a year in year one, rising to $600 million in year 5. So it's a very significant sort of chunk of funding that we don't have now for investment. At the town level, the bill, what can get funded is you could use it to expand local renewable energy, to provide renewable energy or energy efficiency for municipal infrastructure, schools, or community centers, to put in place clean transportation, like expanding public transit, ride sharing, electric vehicle infrastructure, electric buses, or resilience projects, shade trees, air conditioning in schools, things like that. So the majority of the funding would be used at the municipal level. There's also a provision for some funding that would be held back and administered by the Mass Clean Energy Center, and that would be for investments that are for housing, because the thought is it doesn't make sense for every municipality to develop some sort of program to provide resources to individual housing units. So the Mass Clean Energy Center would hold back some money to develop projects that enable homeowners and renters to access the benefits of energy efficiency and renewable energy.
Ms. Brooks, could I interrupt you for one
Yeah.
second? Do we have a draft of this letter that you'd like us to endorse or support?
Yes.
It's in the folder.
We do,
with
Tony.
all the-
Okay.
Tony, it's if you click on
Yeah, I'm
the
clicking.
second to the last one, this one right, this PDF right here, that's the letter.
And where?
Yeah, I'm going quickly because I know that the package, and I don't want to take too much time.
No, we appreciate all your efforts, and clearly, you're making a very thorough
Yeah.
presentation, which is better than
Yeah.
not making
Okay.
one. I'd just like to say, if you're asking us to endorse and support this, like, I generally speaking, support all green initiatives and all sustainable initiatives, and I think Milton as a town leads the charge in that area. I mean, you have individually my full support. I'm behind this 100%.
Okay. And then there's also some funding for small business loans. The second part, the majority of the fund is for rebates. That is how a lot of, this was initially modeled on a project in British Columbia has a carbon price, and they return all the funding in rebates to households. The way that the rebates are structured, without going into a lot of details, it has been done in a way that protects low-income people so that they will get back, low and moderate-income people will get back more in rebates than they spend in increased energy costs. And the reason we're doing that is because we obviously know that there are people within the economy who are struggling to afford energy now and are barely getting by, and that we need to make them whole or have them come out a little bit ahead. So the rebates would be delivered twice a year, before the heating season, before the cooling season, and would be protective of low-income people. There's also some it's a fairly complex bill, so there's some money for worker protections, there's also some protections for rural residents, and without going into the specifics, there's a chart here with that shows the impacts on households by income. People of more means will be paying more over time if they don't either use less energy or shift to cleaner options. So that is sort of the overview. Do you have questions?
Questions or comments from the members?
Are you worried that we're not going to support this?
Oh, am I worried?
You seem worried that you don't think we're going to support this.
Oh, I'm just trying to quickly, trying to talk quickly. We're hoping, so we've just started talking to towns. We think it will be of interest to towns, obviously, because there's revenue available, and we're hoping that you do support it. So far, Worcester, Cambridge, Newton, Brookline, I think Northampton, and one other town have signed on as towns, and then some individual officials have signed on, and we're trying to go to more and more towns and get them to support as well.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Wells?
So I noticed here it says future proposed motion. Can
That's
we make-
actually that's item 19. Item 18, which is,
All right, okay.
oh, actually, no, actually, you're
No,
right,
I-
you're right.
I-
Ms. Collins?
Right, so the idea was to give people time to think about this because it's quite dense.
Yeah.
And just in case we had any follow-up questions
Yeah.
that came up after the session, I'm
I'd be willing to
I'm
make the-
amenable to
I'd be
voting
willing
it
to make-
today, but.
I'd be willing to make a motion tonight if the members will.
Is it, everybody
What's
happy to do
the, what's does anyone want more time? All right, so I think, Mr. Wells, if you want to go ahead and make the motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve a request the Town of Milton Select Board endorse a municipal letter in support of House 2810, an act to promote green infrastructure and reduce carbon emissions, also known as the Benson Bill?
Correct. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, I just took a very extensive tour of Alaska.
Pardon me?
I just took a very extensive tour of Alaska to include
Really?
several
You
glaciers.
saw the pullback. I know, my
on
mom
the-
actually had the exact same
But
experience.
on the way back, I went to British Columbia.
Ah.
Now, I mentioned this to the town administrator when I came back, as far as their sustainables, they're leap years
Yeah.
ahead of anything I've
They
seen
are.
in this country, leap years. So you have my full support, as my colleague, as I believe all of us do, so I'm ready to vote.
Motion's been made and seconded. Just to be clear, this is the letter with it's to Governor Charles Baker, Speaker of the House Robert DeLeo, Senate Presidents Karen Spilka, and members of the 191st General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, subject local officials supporting Massachusetts carbon pricing legislation. Ms. Collins?
We can actually vote this today?
Can or cannot?
Can?
Can.
It's on the agenda as
Yes,
well.
oh yeah,
Okay, just
absolutely.
making
Yes,
sure.
yes, we can.
Okay, great.
So, that's what we're signing on to. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to thank Representatives Driscoll and Cullinane for their work on this as well.
And thank you to Sustainable Milton and Ms. Smith and Mr. Warner. And I'm sorry, sir, what was, I missed your name? Louis Piero and,
Darrell Warner.
no, I have Darrell Warner, Mr. Warner, and
I'm Teresita Cochran.
Teresita Cochran. All right, thank you to Sustainable Milton, thank you to
Thank you.
Clean Water Action and
Yes.
Ms. Spark.
Yes, thank you.
vote.
And all others, yeah. So, motion's been made. Ms. Collins, do you have
Yep.
anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Ms.
you.
Barker. Thank you, Sustainable Milton.
Thank you
very much. All
luck.
right, moving to item, I think we have our attendees for item 19, which is another request for a letter of support from the Executive Director of the Neponset River Watershed Association and the Policy Director from Massachusetts Rivers Alliance. So, welcome to Ian Cook and Gabby Queenan. Item 19. So the floor is yours and Ms. Collins as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having us. And compared to what you just approved, which I think is wonderful, this is relatively simple.
I'm going to just ask you to talk into the microphone
Sure.
so people
All right.
at home can hear you.
So the reason we're here is about another bill called House 3976, which is I actually can't remember the full wordy name of it, but it's affectionately known as the sewage notification bill.
Yeah, it's a long title. It's changed a few times. I think it's an act relative to public notifications in public waterways. I apologize, it has changed a few times this session. That's the.
Well,
gist
we
of
have
it.
right here an act promoting awareness of sewage pollution in public water.
Yes, thank you.
There you
Yep.
go. And the idea behind this bill is fairly simple, that a lot of people would be surprised to know how often there continue to be significant releases of sewage into waters of the Commonwealth. You know, people, I think, often think, oh, we cleaned up all the rivers back in the day, but it is still a significant problem. In some communities, not in Milton, there are problems caused by what are called combined sewer overflows, which happen sort of regularly anytime there's heavy rain. In communities like Milton, there are occasionally issues with sanitary sewer overflows, which usually reflect some sort of short-term blockage or something that comes up in the system. And basically what this bill would do is require public notification when a community ends up releasing a significant amount of sewage to a waterway. And we are looking for communities to support this bill. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this bill relative to Milton is compared to all the other communities in the watershed, you're sort of on the receiving end of every mistake that happens upstream of you. Essentially, the entire watershed is upstream of you. And in Milton, you now have more people sort of actively in contact with the water every day than pretty much any other community in the watershed, between the Milton crew team, the adult crew program, the folks down at the yacht club. So I think this is a bill that has more of an effect on Milton than most communities. And with that introduction, I'll pass it off to Gabby to sort of give a little bit of a context of the bigger picture here.
Sure. So Gabby Queenan, Policy Director for Mass Rivers Alliance. Thank you all for hearing this issue tonight. As Ian said, the legislation is pretty simple. This bill was actually first filed in 2013, and we've done extensive revisions to it, especially this session, working with wastewater treatment plant operators, local elected officials, folks in the state legislature, and then also folks at Mass DP and EPA. This legislation is modeled off of requirements that are currently in place in 14 other states that require some kind of public notice whenever there is a sewage spill into a waterway. As Ian alluded to, in Massachusetts, the estimate is about 3 billion gallons of sewage going into our waters every year. We've never gotten to a point where a public notice has been a requirement. A number of communities have requirements to notify Mass DP and EPA, but that's kind of where the buck stops. So this bill is, again, modeled off of the other states, would require that upon discovery of a discharge of sewage into a public waterway, that within 2 hours of discovery, said official will notify a list of subscribers, so that'll be open to the public, that there has been this incident and that there is likelihood of a presence of sewage in the water. And the idea is that we give people that information so they can make the necessary decisions to protect their health. There's a number of public health issues associated with coming into contact with water that has a lot of sewage. And I will say, to build on Ian's note about being a downstream community, right now, no downstream communities are required to be notified about a sewage spill, at least not in their permits. Some people take it upon themselves to do those notices. So this would require that downstream communities are eligible to receive those notices as well. And the letter that we are hoping that the board will support is currently supported by 139 local elected officials across 59 communities in the Commonwealth. A number of communities have signed on as entire cities or towns. Some have chosen to sign on as individuals as well. So that's kind of where things stand at the moment, and we're still doing outreach with the rest of the state as well. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Queenan. Mr. Cook, questions, comments from members? Mr. Farrington.
So it was first proposed or introduced in the 2013 legislative session.
That is correct.
And was it proposed subsequent to that in 15, 17?
That is correct, yeah. And our organization picked up advocacy for this issue back in 2017 and kind of took that concept and did some extensive revisions with wastewater treatment plant operators who do have combined sewer overflows, because again, that is where we're seeing most of the sewage discharges. So really try to align with where's their infrastructure right now, how can we put forward a proposal that folks feel is feasible, and figure out also where they might need additional support. That was a big piece as well. We've been working with the legislature to put in $800,000 into the environmental bond, so that there's going to be a grant program established for communities who want assistance with notification. So we heard that loud and clear from communities that they would want that resource as well. So it's had a lot of work done to it, and I think we're in the best place we've been in yet. It went through the Senate last session, did not get through the House in time, unfortunately. This time we're starting with the House with the hopes of moving that through quickly.
So this is the fourth iteration of the bill?
Yes.
And you've seen it progressively get, advanced throughout the legislative process since it's the first time it's been put through?
Yeah, I'm a little biased, but I think the most work was probably done starting in 2017.
One other question. So in this presentation that you put together, downstream communities are currently not required to be notified. This would change that, but you used the word eligible. So they will be notified. That is a requirement. Not just eligibility, which leaves the door open, but required, a mandate.
Yeah, so the current language in the bill is that communities downstream of a sewage discharge that are in affected waters will be notified. And the discretion has been left to the Department of Environmental Protection to dictate exactly what those downstream communities are. So that has been an issue in the past, is that some operators felt like they shouldn't have to notify every single community. And so we've been working closely with DEP to figure out exactly how they would really clarify that definition, because I think it's a little bit of a subjective term right now. We'd like to see every community within the watershed notified. I don't think DEP is ready to move in that direction yet, but that would be the goal.
Because it's too burdensome?
That's the pushback.
I think it depends, if you're in the Neponset watershed and Foxborough has a sewer spill, there's only 14 towns, but if you're at the headwaters of the Merrimack,
Right.
it's a bigger task to notify potentially numerous communities.
Didn't I read a disturbing story today about the Merrimack?
You did, yeah, about the PFAS contamination.
How's
Yeah.
that happen in the year 2019?
Yeah, there's a lot of,
So PFAS has just emerged as just a huge issue, sort of one of these things that was never regulated, and, sure enough, it turned out to be a big problem.
I read that story today.
So may I ask, on the notification mandate, is that mandate on the municipality, the operator, DEP, all of the above?
yeah, so the notice would be coming from the individual who's responsible for that entity. So in some cases, that's a wastewater treatment plant operator.
Okay.
In some cases, the responsible authority would be a Department of Public Works. It's going to vary based on town with who has that authority. But I will say, in addition to having towns having this subscriber option, there is language in the bill that would require Mass DEP to put together a public website with locations of all of the sewage spills and when they most recently went off. The idea being that there's no central database right now for that information. So if you're a resident of Milton and you want to go kayaking on the Connecticut River, there's no way for you to have that information unless you were to go to a place like Mass DP and actually see that map and see where there's been a sewage spill.
So the mandate would be on the operator, whether it's a public or a private entity?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Wells?
Good. Well, you have a
Ms.
question
Collins.
first? Go ahead.
Well, just in listening to the answers to these questions, it sounds as if it's not, it's questionable whether we would get really the full benefit, because we may not be defined as a downstream community that should be notified. Is that what I'm understanding?
I wish I could tell you that the language was so prescriptive to the point where it would say exactly which communities will receive the notices, but that is something that Mass DP was not comfortable with. They would like that discretion to be able to come up with their own definitions of downstream communities. Like the scenario that Ian just described with Foxborough, I would be very surprised if Milton wouldn't receive notices for something like that. But we were intentional in the language with giving DP that authority to decide how downstream communities will be determined.
Mr. Wells.
So to my question to you is, has this happened in the Neponset?
Oh, yeah.
So it
Yeah,
does.
It's happened, I mean, it's not a frequent occurrence, but it's happened regularly. Dedham had a pretty significant sanitary sewer overflow because of a clogged sewer a few years ago. Boston has had a number
right,
of
right,
small
right.
ones. There was, Norwood has had some. So it definitely happens.
So they're not necessarily intentional, they're just sometimes a failure of the system to be able to handle what.
Exactly. It's, so the combined sewer overflows are, there's sort of one pipe that has to take the street water as well as the black water, and it's, in a big enough storm, it's designed to overflow. The sanitary sewer overflow is where it's just a sewer, it's never supposed to overflow, but too much water gets in the pipe, and
Right.
there's a blockage, and it backs up and gets out.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Conlon?
So I'll make a motion that we approve a request from the Ponset River Watershed Authority, or Association rather, and the Massachusetts Rivers Alliance for a letter of support for House Bill 3976.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and just to be clear, the letter that we're being asked to support is a letter, I believe, to ask the House Speaker and the House Ways and Means Chair to release that or discharge it from the House Ways and Means Committee to the House floor. That's the letter.
That's correct.
Okay, so for that's really the limited purpose that we're being asked at this point to support the bill for. Mr. Wells?
So just a question, do you know where Representative Driscoll and Representative Cullinane are? And if so, do we need to do anything? Do we need to touch base with them, which I think we can gladly do if we need to,
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned 139 legislators are in support of this.
139 local elected officials. I believe it's 83 legislators are signed on to the bill, and I apologize that I don't off the top of my head if Rep. Driscoll and Rep. Cullinane are on there. I know
I know we asked them last year. I honestly, I should have looked. I can't quite remember.
Can you do me one favor? Can you reach out to the town administrator tomorrow and just kind of confirm? And that way,
Absolutely.
we can at least send correspondence to them so they know that we supported it?
Yep, we can copy them on what we send.
I'll copy them on it?
Ms.
How will we
Collins?
know?
Also, I did consult our environmental coordinator, Hillary Waite, and she,
She was against it?
she's,
I doubt it.
I do too.
no, she's not against it. She'd like to see this.
We need humor in this room a lot.
I could imagine.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Thank
to,
Thank you very much.
it's Massachusetts Rivers Alliance, I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Queenan. Thank you to the Neponset River Watershed Association, Mr. Cook, for bringing this to our attention and making such a persuasive presentation. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving back to the agenda to item 5, discussion approval of the memorandum of agreement with town employee unions regarding health insurance. So I will take the lead on this. Last June, we began negotiating with representatives of the 12 public employee unions here in Milton to see if we could get a voluntary agreement on health insurance for those employees going forward. As we all know, health insurance costs here for Milton, bless you, have skyrocketed, and the town was seeking a more sustainable model. There were often 15 to 20 people in the room representing those unions and representing the town. There were obviously town employees, there were union representatives, sometimes lawyers, and we met throughout the summer. We disagreed on some things, but I think it's fair to say that those in the room were never disagreeable in any way, and we were able to find common ground. The meetings went throughout June, July, August, and early September. Those involved, and I'll be pointing those out in a minute. Those involved gave up much of their free time in order to do this, much of their free time in the summer, on Fridays, in order to work on this. On September 11th, we reached tentative agreement, and all 12 of those Milton Public Employee Unions have now ratified that agreement and signed that agreement. And we have the agreement in front of you, in front of us, for vote and approval tonight. The agreement provides for as follows: plan design changes beginning on January 1, 2020, and continuing through June 30th, 2022. The new plan design will result in lower premiums for our employees, but it does increase copays, and it does add deductibles. In order to smooth the transition for those added deductibles, the town will use a portion of the savings to provide reimbursement for a portion of those deductibles for the first 18 months. The new plan design also includes, I believe for the first time, an opt-out program that will provide, that will allow employees to opt out of the town health insurance and provide a payment for those employees who do so. That will benefit both the employees and the town. For the town, after the reimbursements provided for the transition on the deductibles, we expect a savings of more than $1.1 million to the town. We hope there'll be more. That's an estimate. And we believe, I think it's fair to say, that this provides a more sustainable model for health insurance for the town going forward. I do want to point out the people who worked on this very hard. Again, it was a constructive, cooperative effort, and all those who worked to achieve it deserve a lot of thanks. We have great employees in this town, and our hope is that this agreement will allow us to continue to be competitive and to retain those great employees and to attract more. For the town, people who worked on this, and in the room, Melinda Collins, Mike Dennehy, our town administrator, Paige Abolito, our assistant for, what's Paige's title?
The Assistant Town Administrator and HR
For
Director.
HR Director. We had Amy Dexter, our town accountant, Glenn Pavlicek, the Assistant Superintendent for business for the town, and then we had the employees and representatives, the union representatives, lawyers for the 12 public employee unions who worked with us on this, and I just want to read all those unions because they all worked very hard on this. The Milton Firefighters Association, the Milton Police Superiors Officers Association, the Milton Police Association, Southeastern Public Employee Association, the Milton Professional Management Association, the Milton Public Employees Association, the Milton Public Library Staff Association, the Milton Educators Association Unit A, the Milton Educators Association Unit B, the Milton Educators Association Unit C, the Milton Educators Association Unit D, and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1395. All of those unions have ratified this agreement, I believe, and signed it. I think they've already all signed it.
Last signature today.
And so, again, this will, I believe, provide, it's a compromise, and I think it's a good result for the town, a good result for the town employees all around. So that's what is before us for signature and approval tonight.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, if you'd like, to approve a memorandum of agreement between the town of Milton and the unions of the town of Milton and Milton Public Schools, January 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022.
Seconded.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Congrats to everyone. We're only as good as the people who work for us.
And thank you to the chair and the
Thank you,
vice chair,
yes,
and of course
all
the
your
town
time.
administrator and all the employees that the chair just named.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Item 6. And this is another agreement for approval. This was another effort that has gone on through the summer. relating to our new teen center that we hope to be opening up soon. Park Commissioners, our youth task force, and of course, the First Congregational Church have been working hard to make a teen center a reality for this town. We're almost there. The First Congregational Church, led by Reverend John Allen, has done an outstanding job at remodeling their space so that it will work as a teen center. The space is gorgeous, and it's near completion. Our Parks Commissioners and our Parks Department employees, Paul D'Amano, Bonnie DeVore, and Kevin Chisholm, have worked hard on staffing, on rules, on regulations and operations. They've been working on that all summer, and we're just about ready to go. The current plan is for the space to be completed just before Thanksgiving, and we're hopeful that we can have an orientation for the middle schoolers before Thanksgiving, perhaps in the afternoon, Monday or Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and allow the students to have a walkthrough. If all goes to plan, we will open the Teen Center on Monday, December 2nd, just after Thanksgiving, and we have a tentative plan for a grand opening that following weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. We're still working that out with the church. So we have before us tonight a lease. In addition to all the work that's been done, we've also been working on a lease for the town to use the space for this teen center. This lease that you have before you tonight has been vetted by town council and by our insurance carrier. It provides for a term of 33 months. We will be paying operating expenses in the amount of $342 a month during the 10 months of the school year. The hours of operation for the youth center, we'll have it between 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. It'll be open, I believe, 2:30 to 6, Monday to Thursday. For middle school students, we also have the opportunity under the lease to access it and to provide Friday and Saturday evening programs for high school students with time and events to be determined and to be worked out with the church, but we have that opportunity under the lease. Again, I want to thank everyone who worked on this, particularly our youth task force, our Parks Commissioners, and of course the First Congregational Church. This is a great example of this community coming together, working together, and addressing a need and addressing a problem and working together cooperatively in order to meet that need. And so Mike Dennehy obviously has been involved in this, deserves a lot of credit, as does our town council, who's worked on this as well. So we have the lease before us. If there's any questions, we can.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign a lease between the First Congregational Church of Milton, 495 Canton Avenue, Milton, the lessor, and the town of Milton, Massachusetts, by its select board. Milton Town Office Building, 525 Canton Ave, Milton, Mass. 02186, the lessee, for a term of 34 months, beginning November 1st, 2019, and ending August 31st, 2022, unless sooner terminated as provided within the lease.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just a question?
Yes,
Why
Mr.
34
Woods.
months?
That takes us through that's the 3 school years. So it takes us through June of 2022, I believe.
Okay.
20, 21, 22, yes, June of 2022.
And just one final point, I do
Pardon me.
believe, in addition to the the middle school hours, the potential night hours, the possibility exists for either the parks or the church to run additional adjunct programs as they may come up, because that was asked to me today.
Yes, on, particularly, the lease specifies that potential programming for high school age students on Friday and Saturday evenings. And then, to the extent that there are other
Right,
things
things
that
that
we
come
can
up,
do, those at the First Congregational Church, the chair of their board, Nikki, I'm gonna butcher her name, and I apologize, Nikki Raskaitis.
Boyson?
Boyson Raskaitis, yes. And David Hall, and obviously Reverend Allen, they've been great to work with, and so I'm quite confident that to the extent that we have opportunities and needs going forward, we can help to meet those. So, any further discussion?
Just like to welcome Mark Pendarvis. Mark's a Milton resident and former retired school teacher. He's going to be the supervisor over there.
Oh, he's, okay.
He was hired today, took the position. Very vibrant, dynamic, worked with middle school and high school students in Brockton and Boston public school systems. So he's well able for what's going to come through the door.
And in Maine as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
so this is a, just in terms of his background, this is a teacher, someone who has been a teacher, worked with middle school and high school students. And I believe he's retired.
He's retired, yeah.
He's retired here in Milton, and he's, I think people are very excited about what he's going to do with that, in that role. So,
Well, this is a good result for, been a long time coming, a long-standing need, so congratulations to the negotiating team and the youth task force.
any further discussion?
Let's vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. We've done 7, 8, and 9. Item 10, sticking with the youth task force, we have the appointment of a middle school representative. Our middle school representative to the youth task force graduated to high school, and our high school representative graduated, so we need a new middle school representative, and so we're asking the board to appoint Giselle Demanche.
I'll make
as
a
the
motion to
new-
appoint Giselle Demanche as the middle school student representative to the youth task force through July 31st, 2020.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Unanimous. Item 11, this is a grant secured by Senator Timilty for the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition for $30,000.
I'll move that be accepted grant secured by Senator Walter Timilty to support the work of the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition in the amount of $30,000.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just thank you to Senator
Thank you.
Timilty.
Yes, and I think we have a note that this is going to be used by, obviously, the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition on their continuing efforts on youth substance abuse. So this is obviously welcome news for us. So, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Item 12, acceptance of 3 donations from Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital to the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition.
I'll make a motion to accept the following donations from Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, Milton, to support the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. The acceptance of $3,000 donation from BI Deaconess Hospital. This donation funded the speaker fee. Do I need to do all this? Do I need? No, okay.
No.
I'll end after coalition.
So, I'm sorry, did the 3 donations are $3,000, $2,000, and $559.43?
Yes.
This is an interesting amount.
Sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Thank you to the BI Milton.
Yes.
Yes, thank you to Beth Israel Deaconess Milton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 13, are we going to go forward with the ULI steering committee appointment? Do we want Mr. Clark for this, or do we need Mr. Clark?
Bill's
for
on
this?
vacation. We can defer, to whatever you want to do.
How
Basically,
soon do they want to start?
yesterday.
We can go. I'm like,
Ms.
The proposed motion says approve the formation. My understanding was the planning board has already formed this
Right,
committee. Is
they
that
have.
correct?
want, they want an appointee.
They
They want
just
an
look for
appointee from us.
our
That's
board.
right.
Yep.
is this for East Milton?
This is,
Yeah,
based
this
on
is
the Urban Land Institute walkthrough this past January. Out of that
Mr.
came...
Chair, given that I live in East Milton, if it pleases you and the other members, I will walk the plank for that. No,
Yeah.
I'll gladly do it if you'd like. If no one else does, it's up to you.
Certainly pleases me. Does anyone,
fine with me.
anyone else have any interest in joining us?
Is this going to be a long one?
Well,
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's for the
Right, this is the
community
presentation of the UI.
consensus portion, so
Right.
I don't know that it'll be that long.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
I'm sure it'll be over by the end
No,
of the
I'm
year.
only
sure it'll be
kidding.
over
I'm
by
only
the end of the
kidding. Be over by April? No.
So it's a slightly different motion then, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but I move to appoint Richard Wells as the Select Board representative to the ULI Steering Committee for community consensus building.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and just to make clear what this is, so this, there were recommendations from the Urban Land Institute's Technical Assistance panel, to form a steering committee to review the
Recommendations, right.
and so there'll be a member of the planning board, a member of the master plan implementation committee, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, a member of the East Milton Neighborhood Association, and Mr. Wells for our board. So motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Can I
Oh, Ms. Wells, Ms. Conlon.
can I make a
Conlon- Collins, sorry.
friendly amendment to my own motion?
You want to do every other meeting?
Just in case that they want Richard to serve all the way through on the steering committee, maybe we should just say the ULI, the planning board's ULI steering committee, and just leave it at that.
Whatever you want to do is fine with me.
I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
just so we don't have to revote it for some reason.
So this would be a motion to approve Richard Wells as the select board member to the planning board's
Appoint,
right, what did I say? I said
as the
something
select board's representative to the ULI, or on the ULI, whatever, planning board's ULI steering committee.
Right, that's it. All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 14, discussion approval of the draft letter to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs on the Logan Airport 2017 Environmental Status and Planning Report. Ms. Conlon, do you, I can take this if you want.
Sure.
Yeah. So we are in the process of putting together that letter. We had a draft at our last meeting. We have received some inputs to that draft, but we don't have it for you this evening. And so this is due on November 18th. And so what we will need to do between now and November 18th is to circulate the draft, and hopefully we'll have all the inputs to that draft by the end of the week. But we'll have to meet before the 18th in order to discuss and review and approve that draft. So perhaps we can meet where, if the members agree, we could meet on the, maybe perhaps on the 14th before the airplane meeting. Or we could meet some morning to do it as well, but we do need to do it before our next meeting, which is on the 20th. So that's the status. We're waiting to get the inputs in, hope to have it by the end of the week, and then we need to deliberate and vote on it. So, thoughts,
Mr.
questions?
Chair, the proposed motion says to authorize the chair to sign. Another option might be to just authorize the chair to sign. I don't know if all the edits that came in from the airplane committee today were circulated to everyone or not.
I didn't see them.
Okay.
No, they just came in today,
Okay,
so they haven't been input.
They may not have been circulated.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I mentioned this to Michael just briefly today. I had a short conversation with Representative Cullinane yesterday. I think it might be prudent of you to have a short conversation with him before we sign this. Just some things he has, suggestions he has.
Oh,
So I think it's probably a good thing that you should do it, so maybe you could do that between now and the 14th.
Sure.
I mean, they clearly, both he and Representative Driscoll and Senator Timmons, we know they have a really vested interest in this as well as we do. And I just think it'd be prudent.
No, it makes good sense, and it reminds me that we've heard from Senator Timothy as well about, wanting to see the letter and perhaps signing on to it. So I think that makes good sense.
I
Makes
agree.
good sense.
So I guess my point was, do we want to delegate it to the chair to finalize the letter and sign it? Or, as an alternative to meeting on the 14th, but since we're probably going to have a quorum that night anyway, maybe that's the better way to go.
I'll do it however you want to do it. Whatever's easy. You two spend all the time on this, so I'll do whatever you think is easier.
You know, I'm fine either way. I guess I'd be more comfortable if the members saw the inputs before we voted on it. So perhaps if we'll set up a meeting between now and the 18th. Perhaps it'll be 6:30 on the 14th, if that works, to review and approve that letter, or to review and vote on that letter. Okay. Future meeting dates. We have the meeting that just has been mentioned, the November 14th meeting at 7 o'clock here, the Town Hall on airplane issues, hosted by this board and by the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee. Pardon me, we have our meeting on November 20th, which is the following Wednesday. November 14th is the Thursday. We have December 2nd for town meeting, our special town meeting, hopefully not to require December 3rd or December 4th. I'm sorry, no, we have, I guess the question is whether we meet on the 4th, and then we have our meeting on the 18th, and that's to accommodate the holidays. So we have town meeting on the 2nd. So the question is, do we meet on the 4th and then meet on the 18th?
Well, we typically meet prior to town meeting, so if we have a session for a half hour on Monday, and then potentially another half-hour session on Tuesday, I wonder if that really necessitates meeting on Wednesday.
I don't disagree, although I'm hoping it's not necessarily, I'm
I'm with you.
hoping we don't meet
I'm
on
with you.
Tuesday.
Capital H and hope.
Yeah, Ms. Collins.
I thought in our prep meeting, we were wondering if we, closer to the date, say at our, the second meeting this month, we might have a better idea of what business we might have and whether we really need that meeting on the 4th. And I think we also wondered whether we would need to actually meet early, depending upon what happens in the next two meetings. Maybe we could actually just go to town meeting rather than having a session before. I think we were talking about that.
Right, just to elaborate, thank you, Ms. Collins. We have on the agenda for tonight and for the 20th, the warrant articles and discussion and vote, if the board chooses, on whether to support or not to support. We have supported them for inclusion in the warrant. We haven't supported the substance. We haven't voted on whether we support the substance. So we have that on the agenda. So if we have deliberation and vote on those things, either tonight and or the 20th, then perhaps, Tony, we would need to meet early on the 2nd. So you're right, Melinda, and I apologize for forgetting. I think why don't we leave open the 4th? And on whether we'll need to meet, to your point, Tony, and we'll have a better idea on the 20th, whether we may need that meeting.
I think we should plan on the 2nd anyway.
Yes.
At least a half hour.
Yes.
Well, there's always last-minute changes
Okay.
before town meeting on articles, or somebody comes in with a proposed friendly amendment that we have to talk about. So I would plan for December 2nd.
6:30 on the 2nd, because I think town meeting is set for 7:30, I believe, so
So
6:30.
Yeah, 6:30 or 7, yeah.
So 6:30 on the 2nd?
Yeah, or 7, depending on how
Yeah.
much business you have on the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay, all right. Item 16, one-day liquor licenses.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the following one-day liquor licenses. Milton Arts Center, 334 Edge Hill Road, for November 8th, 2019 Trivia Night, November 15th, 2019 for Fall Fridays Music Series, and November 22nd, 2019 for Comedy Night with Christine Hurley.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 17, discussion approval of the warrant greeting page.
I'll make a motion to
Index.
approve and sign the December 2019 special town meeting warrant greeting and index pages.
I'll second the motion, but I would like us to have the chair, invite the chair of the warrant committee into our next meeting because we should be approving the warrant, so I know that they're meeting tonight, right? So they haven't finished
Yes.
their recommendations, but we should have that on to actually approve the warrant too, even though it'll have already gone to the printer for the first go-around with the printer.
Right.
We should still approve it.
So here we'll be approving inside, we'll be approving just the greeting and the index pages. And then we'll have Mr. Asher in on the 20th, we hope, to discuss the substance of the articles. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 18 is, we've been through. Item 19, we've been through. Item 20, a letter to the MBTA regarding the trolley station stair repairs. Ms. Collins, do you want to take this?
Well, I think we probably all received copies of the letter that our reps Cullinane and Driscoll sent to the MBTA. Steve Poftak saying that we need our stairs fixed at the Mattapan stop. And I thought that we should probably back that up with our assent, and so I just drafted a letter. If no one has any changes?
Make a motion.
Okay, I move to approve a letter of support to the MBTA regarding trolley station stair repairs at the Milton Station on the Red Line.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
My only question was, do we need to say in the first line, "We, the Select Board of the Town of Milton"? If it's going to be on our letterhead, I think it could just be "We write in support," but.
Great.
But that's
Yeah.
just a
And we're going to
minor
include
comment.
their letter as well, because they actually have a solution that they've proposed. So I very much appreciate they're doing this and informing us.
All right, with that amendment, with that proposed amendment, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 2021, and this is on the agenda to see whether we want to vote to support or not to support some or all the articles. And again, my thought was that we could include it tonight to the extent that the members would like to discuss and vote on some of the articles tonight. And then we can also include it on the 20th when Mr. Asher is here. And we can do it then as well. So anyway, so it's at the pleasure of the members whether we want to go forward on any of these tonight or we want to wait till the 20th.
Mr. Chair, do you want to do it while he's here to kind of, that way he can discuss, not that we have to do what they vote,
Right.
the way they vote. Just a thought, do we maybe do it while he's here, put it up early on in the agenda, we deal with it right away? Just a thought.
I think that sounds like it makes sense, and given how does our agenda look for the 20th? Do we
Growing.
it's growing, okay, all right. But it's a good
Yeah.
point that if we have Mr. Asher here, Ms. Conlon.
Are there some that we can take up tonight?
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah,
planning
yeah,
board.
the planning boards, yeah.
Yeah, the planning board ones, I think we should defer, because we don't even know if they've had a public hearing on them yet. But even the planning board is supposed to wait until the public hearing, until they take a position, but
And
the
Mr.
budget
Geis will
ones.
be in, pardon me, Ms. Geis will be in on the 20th. I'm pretty sure. She
Who?
said Mr. Geis, Cheryl
okay.
Geis,
Oh,
the chair of the planning
Okay.
board, to walk us through those as well. Sorry to interrupt.
So the
Katie.
first few, the appropriation articles and the Article 6 about the easements, that's really just a standard boilerplate article that's in most of the warrants. So I think some of these we could
Want to have a
act on
consent
tonight.
agenda?
1 through 4 and number 6?
You could do one. You could do, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make
Can I
a,
just add
Mr.
a caveat?
Denny.
Oh, you just talking
no,
about
go ahead, go
number
ahead.
1?
Go ahead, no, I
There's
was
a
going
caveat with Article 2. So Chase Berkeley had presented and cleaned up the mess that I kind of created with the stormwater article.
Right,
I
you
was
were
right
in
there with you.
Right.
so.
Dazzle is the word I used. But he did, what trying to do is the revenue side of the impact of the solid waste contract as it hits the stormwater enterprise fund was discussed. Since then, DLS has confirmed our enterprise funds. We can confidently attest that $50,000 of the $137,000 in the stormwater enterprise fund could be used to mitigate the increase in revenue or the increase in the square foot of impervious surface costs that will even out the balance sheet for the enterprise fund. So it was presented, you'll see Article 2 has been adjusted to take retained earnings of $50,000 to mitigate some of the impact of the solid waste on the stormwater enterprise fund.
And that means we'll be mitigating the cost for the residents.
Correct.
Right, so that the
Correct.
cost for the residents won't be going up
As much.
as much.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, maybe this will help, to Katie's point. I'll make a motion, I'll start. Number one, to amend departmental appropriations fiscal year '20. I'll make a motion to approve that one. I'll support that one, I'm sorry, support that one.
Support that.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll do the same. I'll make a motion to support the amended stormwater enterprise fund appropriation for fiscal year 2020.
Second.
So are we getting a revised draft of the article on that one? Is that what I understood?
I think everyone
Or
was,
just the
everything was
recommendation?
sent around
It's,
yesterday afternoon. Probably,
I think it's,
All right, so.
I may have only sent it this morning, but Kevin Freitag rewrote.
So is it the recommendation that's changing or the article?
It's just a recommendation.
Okay.
And I think, Katie, if you look in the chart, you'll see the $50,000 from retained earnings going into the FY 2020 adjustment.
right.
I don't have an attachment on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you've got it.
So this is the,
Oh, sorry. I thought that was for me.
Okay, I think this is what we had. It's just not, I thought you were referring to something new.
No,
That
no.
was an attachment to our electronic agenda.
Oh, there's a copy of the thing.
Was that one seconded?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Okay.
20 seconded, yeah.
Yeah.
motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Aye, supported,
Okay.
unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to support number 3, the sewer betterment appropriation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 4, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to establish the Milton Landing revolving fund account.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5, I'll make a motion, a home rule petition, exempt the harbor master position from the civil service law.
We might want to wait on this one, Richard.
right.
Or we don't have to, we can vote it. I still have my reservations, but maybe we wait until Mr. Asher comes and talks about it more.
They supported it.
I know. I mean, I'm happy to vote it now if you want to. I'd probably be against it. But happy to do it now or wait until the 20th, and maybe I'll learn something. So I thought we were going to do 1 through 4 and 6, but again, if you want to do 5, we can do it. We can do it.
You want to wait? I'll wait. I just don't
Yeah.
know what part you're going to chart if we don't do this, but
It would stay the same, but we can
All
have a
right.
discussion.
I will yield to someone else. Okay. Number 6, authorize the select board to accept easements.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
And I'm
right.
going to skip the planning. What do you want to do on 10?
Let's hold off on that, too.
You want to hold up to 10 as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
The draft we have says that the warrant committee is recommending a no vote, is that correct?
Yes.
If you watch the meeting, the language, we actually can't do what the language says, so I might get it wrong, so correct me.
No,
But-
you're-
but-
you're-
But, well, I'm on the right track, it doesn't mean I won't veer off. But at the meeting, they're going to have the language from town council.
I think the word is instruct. They can't instruct
right,
the select board.
They can
Right.
authorize, right?
Right.
So-
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
All right, so
So
then the
they'll
warrant
have
committee's
one-
not opposed substantively, they're just, so I'm still not clear why they would recommend a no vote. Why don't they just recommend a home rule petition that authorizes the board to petition the court?
Discuss that when George is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Tony, that's probably the best thing to do. I didn't know what they did. I mean, I do think, regardless of I understand the merits in wanting it, I also understand the extreme difficulty, if it were ever passed, in enforcing it, which I think will probably be MassDOT will have. MassDOT's really the place to go. This is not the general board, but I'm with you. We can discuss this when George comes in, then the warrant committee chair. I'm fine. Maybe that can help answer.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Alex's Whiteside's comments made a lot of sense, and I'm in favor of it, so we don't have to be on the same page as the warrant committee on this one. We can vote it on our own, but
He
I'm
wasn't
happy to
unop-
hear what they have to
He
say.
wasn't unopposed to their remedy, though, right?
Right, they did have some questions about how far you place the signage, right? What's the approach? Is it a quarter mile, or is it hundreds of feet? And it got a little, it got discussed at
Right.
length
Well,
about
Right,
The
but
diff-
the... but
where the
they-
approach, where
right.
the approach is.
So
We
the
know the intersection, but where do
Right,
the
but
approach
But
signs?
the process for town meeting, Alex wasn't opposed to what they were proposing, that there would be a no vote, and then somebody would...
Change a word from
change-
instruct to authorize
Right.
her, yeah.
I get the process, I understand the process, and just like from the practical aspect of enforcement, laying it out, how you do it, is really a difficult thing to do. It just, if it were even to pass, you're putting your police department in a really, really difficult position to try to enforce a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in such a congested, pressured intersection as it's laid out today. It's a dangerous thing to do. Sometimes people don't think of that. It's easy, and it's easy to paint the picture, let's have a 25-mile-an-hour, and I get that. But to enforce it and make it a reality in the way that's laid out today is a really dangerous thing. A tough thing to do. Either way, whether you go on Randolph or Chickatawbut, and you've got two jurisdictions, it's an inordinate task to place upon either the state police for Chickatawbut or the Milton Police for 28. But I get the merits of it and the reasoning for it, I get that. But sometimes just because you think something is a benefit, the pragmatic, realistic thing is, you also make it, you could also make it more dangerous in trying to enforce it.
So,
But I'm willing to wait till George comes, and I get Katie, I'm like, in theory, I get your support of it, but in practicality, I understand just how difficult it is. And I'm sure if Chief King were here, or the majors, anyone, even the MassDOT engineers, they would be, it's one thing in a citizen petition to say, okay, here's how we're gonna lay things out, but I'm not a traffic engineer. None of us are. I mean, that's why we have a Massachusetts Unified Traffic Code. It's a really restrictive thing. It's difficult in how you do it. But you wanna wait till George comes in? I'm fine.
Sure, that's fine.
I'm fine.
All right, item 22, and this, I guess...
You might as well
we'll-
defer that as well, then, if
Okay,
you're gonna.
all right, so we can defer item 22 until the 20th. And on to meeting minutes. All right, item 23. I know we had some revisions today, and I guess,
So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 26, 2019, October 8, 16, 23rd, and 28, 2019, as amended and edited today, final minutes. Is that all right? That cover it?
I think so.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Town Administrator's Report, item 24, Mr. Dennehy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I think we all know how good our animal control officer is in town, Nancy Bersani. You will not find a more dedicated and passionate employee and someone who loves what they do. It's another thing when her peers understand that as well. So Chief King and Deputy Chief O'Neill went to the Massachusetts Animal Control Officers Annual Meeting, where Nancy Bersani was named Co-Animal Control Officer of Massachusetts. So huge credit to all the work she does in our town, and to be acknowledged by a group of her side-by-sides is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to Nancy. Stopped in the other day just to see how the town barn demolition was coming. She had a kitten in one hand, a cat at her feet, feeding a turtle. Yeah, quite an accomplishment. So I just want to acknowledge that and congratulate Nancy Bersani. Thank you to Sustainable Milton tonight for coming in and acknowledging all the greening efforts that are going on in town. They did not, they forgot to mention the second electric vehicle charging station, which should be turned on shortly. It's down in the Wharf parking lot, and it's very similar to the one sitting behind Town Hall. It's actually the same exact model. That funding source came from Senator Timmelty at the State House, so thank you to the senator. That vehicle charging station is to be activated sometime late this week or early next week, so. As you walked in here tonight, you probably saw the beautiful flags and the unbelievable gardening that was done. We would be remiss if we did not acknowledge Patty Mandeville from the Milton Police Department. She adorns all the flags that you see outside this building this time of year, especially for the luncheon that will take place here tomorrow, as well as the parade and celebration of Veterans Day out on Town Hall on Monday. Additionally, Lisa Ahern from the cemetery and two of her employees came up here today to do some housekeeping and some gardening, and as you can see, their green thumb is much better than Mike Dennehy's. So I just wanted to acknowledge their work in and around here. And then I was at the bench dedication for firefighter Brian Carlson on Saturday. Literally stopped the traffic in East Milton. There were so many people there. So Cassie Hunt, Brian's sister, did an amazing job. Herself and Chief Grant with their eloquent words about her brother and former co-worker. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Oh, just one more thing. We are in the third to last yard waste collection season, week of the year. 2 weeks from today, we'll be two weeks from now, we'll be collecting as well, and then there's 2 weeks in December. And trash will be delayed one day next week due to the Veterans Day holiday. We didn't do a good job of getting the message out last time, so. Yard waste this week, and then the week of November 21st, and then twice in December, and trash will be delayed collection next week during Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dennehy. I don't have anything particular to offer, other than there was another dedication that I was unable to go to, and that was the Therese Desmond dedication
awesome.
at the cemetery.
Well done.
And so congratulations certainly again to Ms. Desmond and to the cemetery trustees for the good work that they did on that. With that, the members, Ms. Collins.
No report?
Mr. Farrington.
I have nothing to add, thank you.
Ms. Conlon.
The only thing I want to add is I went to a very nice Downton Abbey tea at the Milton Library on Saturday. It's a benefit for the Friends of the Library. And I wanted to thank Connie Spiros and her team, who do a great job fundraising for that effort. And it was a very nice event, and a lot of work went into it, and congratulations to Connie on another successful fundraising event.
Was that a costume?
A lot of people were in costume. Yeah, quite a few.
Mr. Wells.
No, nothing. All set.
All right, item 27, public comment response. No public comment, so no public comment response. Any future agenda items from the members, other than anything that hasn't been either listed or talked about, or from Mr. Dennehy?
I believe we have the Town Government Study Committee coming in on the 20th
On the
as well.
20th may be well, we'll do our best to get through
We're
it.
still working through the fire truck donation procurement law with Town Council.
Okay, okay,
That might be ready.
okay.
Nothing is easy.
All right, item 29, community happenings. Tomorrow night, the Forbes House Museum is having their Kichong dinner at the Wollaston Golf Club at 6 p.m. The next night is Friday, November 8th, is trivia night at the Milton Arts Center at 7 p.m. And actually, tomorrow is the Veterans Luncheon at 11:30 here at the Council on Aging. Monday, November 11th, is our Veterans Day observance. As Mr. Cook pointed out earlier this evening, the procession will start at the high school at 10:30 and will be on the town green at 11 a.m. And let's see, Thursday, November 14th, we have the Select Board and Airplane Noise Advisory Committee Town Hall on airplane issues here at the Council on Aging at 7 p.m. Also, on the 14th is a holiday floral demo with Lisa Ahern at the Wakefield Estate at 6:30. Maybe I'll go to that.
You want me to represent you? So moved.
Exactly. And on Thursday, November 21st, the Milton Historical Society Spirit of Christmas Past at the Milton Public Library at 7 p.m. So if there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And now we will call to order the meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust Fund. And item 2 on the agenda is a discussion approval of the Milton Food Pantry's request for donation for their dairy program.
So I'll make a motion to approve a request for a donation for the amount of $23,000 to support the Milton, am I in the right spot? Yeah.
Yep.
Milton Food Pantry's dairy program.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Just to point out, that's an increase. We're increasing $8,000 over last year's request. That's been the request from the food pantry, that we increase it from $15,000 last year to $23,000 this year, which we're happy to do. Item 3, the BID Milton request for funds to assist with defraying cost of unreimbursed care to Milton residents.
I move to approve a request for support in the amount of $15,000 from Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital Milton to help defray their cost of unreimbursed care to Milton residents.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I'm not in favor of this.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do have a letter from Beth Israel Deaconess pointing out that they're in fiscal year 2018, they provided unreimbursed care to Milton residents that totaled $234,738. They're asking for the Governor Stoughton trustees for $15,000 to defray that cost, and I think that's consistent with last year.
I understand that,
Yep.
the distinction in that we're wearing our trustee hat
Right.
here, okay, as trustees of the trust, and we're not acting in our capacity as selectmen of the town of Milton, but I still can't, in good conscience, vote in favor of authorizing a disbursement in the amount of $15,000 to help defray cost of care to Milton Hospital, given the fact that I think BID Milton is not really holding up their end of the bargain when it comes to pilot payments, and up to and until BID sort of contributes more and does more, I'm not going to be in favor of anything similar to this. So that's my position.
Any further discussion? I will say that I don't disagree, Tony, with the thrust of what you're saying, but I do appreciate the distinction that you made between the board and the trustees. If it were a board action, I might take a different view. Given that this is the trustees, I do think that it's appropriate as a trustee of the Governor Stoughton Trust to help the poor, and that this does help the poor. And so, given that, I'm very empathetic with your view, and I understand it. But given our role as Governor Stoughton trustees, I'm going to support this. All right. Any further discussion?
No, I get it, though. I get where
Yeah.
he's going with it.
Yep.
I get it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
4-1. All right, item 4, discussion approval of a town farm estimate, town farm barn, say that 3 times.
I'll make a
Town
motion to
farm barn.
approve, I'll make a motion to approve the additional work suggested by the contractor to the town farm barn in the amount of $2,800. I just can't, is this a deal with the foundation? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Bonnie, so I get it. Okay.
Mr. Dennehy, maybe you want to give us a quick
So-
update on
so,
the demolition.
The contractor made quick work of the barn as the building commissioner had anticipated. It's probably 3 full days of work getting the material out of there. What happened is, just based on the grade of the parcel up there, the grade exposes the stone walls around it, and there's a foundational wall there that should come down. They want to keep the stone walls, the original stone walls, intact. That's not what they want to touch. they want to fill some of that land, and if you're up there at night, the lighting's poor, someone could walk off, you know.
Yes.
When they didn't know what was inside of it, there's actually a catch basin inside of it and everything. It's pretty neat up there. They found an old Town of Milton weights and measures truck. There was some neat stuff in there, but it was very dangerous, and they didn't know what was inside the contents of that building. And what they found is the stone walls, probably, you were up there, Richard, probably an 8-foot drop.
Yeah.
So they want to fill that in and take down a foundation wall, which is actually built on a concrete slab, which then could be used as some parking in the meantime, because there's such limited parking up there. But great work was done. And this is just to make it a little safer and fill in some of that and knock that last piece of the foundation wall down.
Just to, Mr. Chair,
Mr.
just to
Wells.
that point, when I was there Monday, we talked about boarding up the men's, the big one, the men's. Where are we on that? Because it is all, I mean, it's wide open, and it's got broken windows, it's,
We got an email today.
Did
I
we
don't know if
really?
you
Yes.
saw
Like
it,
this
but,
afternoon.
yeah, from a from a
I
citizen saying.
think if we're
bring
not
it to our
gonna
attention.
do anything with it, especially with winter coming, I don't remember what the amount was, but
I
it just, to
The
me,
amount to
especially with my background, looking, and having gone there so many times, it just got an invitation. And now there's a curiosity that you can come up from whatever, Woodlot Drive, you can drive right up, drive right through, drive right across over to Governor Stoughton, it just,
Well, the email from the resident at Quissett Brook said that she witnessed 2 people enter the house through an open window
I
and
believe
then
it.
exit the house 10 minutes later, so
I believe
I
it.
think we do need to act to board up the main arms house.
Ms. Collins, did you?
We had.
Yeah, I
an
believe the
estimate.
quote was about $12,000.
12, okay.
Building commissioner was a little hesitant in doing that. If you use his subject matter expertise, the sills on the front left side of the building are, you know, beyond repair. His concern is that $12,000, and we talked about this briefly. Obviously, there's safety concern. There's been, you know, signs of some cigarette smoking and some snacks. It looks like people are using
Yeah,
it
kids are getting in
as
there,
shelter, which could lead to a dangerous situation. But his thought was that $12,000 would be better spent towards demolishing the building.
Yeah, but
He thinks it's
I'd like to
that-
put that on the next agenda, because I'd like to spend the $12,000 and keep that safe and avoid liability issues up there. I understand the building
I
commissioner's
agree.
perspective on the situation, the current condition of the building, but I don't think we've made any decision about demolishing the building, and we have winter coming, we've got public safety issues there, so I think it's money well worth spent from the trust.
I mean,
Did we,
Mr.
go ahead, Tony,
Farrington.
go
well,
ahead.
what about a fence, for example? Some sort of barrier that would prohibit, my thought is this, prohibit people from entering, let nature take its course over a harsh winter, and perhaps the cost to demolish the building might, decrease.
There are some people who don't want to demolish the building.
I think any fence that you put up around it, I don't know if, when there's no one there at night, it's so desolate.
Right.
Did you just mention the lighting, it's so dark, there, I just,
Yeah.
I just,
And we-
12,000 to plywood those
board,
windows,
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
That's why
Yeah.
it was, that's why we didn't do it sooner. I think we were hoping things would move along faster.
I mean, there's some slate tiles missing from the roof, and there's,
So we don't want to get too far
Right.
on, because this isn't on the agenda.
Right.
I know it isn't,
So-
but
so we'll
I'm
put
with
it on-
Katie, I
yeah,
want to get
so-
on the next agenda, and
Yeah.
I think we need to take an action. I
Yeah.
think we need to
Yep.
do this.
So we'll put it on for the 20th, and we'll try to have Mr. Prondak. Maybe
Yeah.
we can take Governor Stoughton first
Right
and have
with
Mr. Prondak in here talk
Katie.
about, to talk about his thoughts.
Right.
And the relative costs. And then we can have a fulsome
Yeah.
discussion.
I wonder if we need anybody else, because I view it more as a public safety issue
Yeah,
than
me
a
too.
building commissioner issue at this point.
That's how, I'm looking at it more as a public safety, that it just,
Yeah.
it's got danger written all over it, it's just an accident waiting to happen. And
Yeah.
particularly from a kid, the colder it gets in the year, the more kids venture to go inside, and it's really not an area you're gonna patrol, you're not even gonna get traffic. It's a dead end, and the animal shelter's closed at night, it's just, it's
So,
at that point.
So I thought we could get the estimate from Mr. Prondak. Is Mr. Ritchie? We can get the estimate from Mr. Prondak for boarding it up. And then he can talk about, he can talk about the additional options as well, it seems to me. And we can have a full discussion. So, all right.
I think we need to vote on my motion, on the 2800.
Yeah, was there a second? If not, I'll second it.
On which?
I'll second.
Oh, no second. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Sorry about that, Richard. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We will be back on Wednesday, November 20th. Thank you very much.
Excellent.